not everything has to be discipline. Teenagers will experiment with a substance. It's normal. This is the tough part about parenting an adolescent. It requires maturity. It's when they're banging the door, when they're saying, "Mom, you're ruining my life." You have to equip yourself to parent the person who's in front of you, not the person who's in your mind. Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for all the support you guys have been showing on my previous videos. I really appreciate it. I hope to keep on making more content like this. So last time we did a vlog, and today we're going to talk about something a little bit more serious. But I love this topic. I love this group of people because I think society doesn't give them a chance. And yeah, so we're just gonna get right into it. Remember guys, please like and subscribe and share, especially with parents, and comment, all those things. Today we're going to talk about adolescents and their mental health. So an adolescent is someone who is aged between 10 and 19, and the key feature of adolescence is that you're going through puberty. So puberty, there are a lot of things happening to you and your body. You know, we know all of it. The boys, their voices get deeper, they get taller. Some might even grow facial hair. With girls, it's the development of wider hips, breasts. Yeah, our voices remain a little bit high or squeaky or high pitched. And yeah, the thing we don't talk about, or that we don't talk about enough, is the changes that are happening to your brain because of adolescence or puberty. So how can I put this? Okay, so basically this is an oversimplification of many disciplines of science, but basically your brain grows or develops from the back of the brain right up until the front. So that's why sometimes you'll see in movies, if they break someone's neck, they're actually trying to break this part of the brain which is responsible for breathing, respiration. So that's the most basic part of being alive, you know, being able to take a breath, also your heart beating on its own, all those things. But as you move forward, it gets a little bit more complex, so that this part of the brain, the very front, is called the prefrontal cortex. It's the very last to develop properly. So what that means is we all are born with a prefrontal cortex, but it's going to get mature the latest. So the latest figures are at 25, your prefrontal cortex closes or matures. And this is important because this part of the brain is responsible for what we call executive function: judgment, planning, problem solving, deciding if something is good or not, imagining the future consequences of something. And we make it sound really easy or really straightforward, but if you meet a 19-year-old girl or woman, 19-year-old woman and a 26-year-old woman, in a lot of ways those two people are very different, and the core of their personality may remain the same, but there's a lot more wisdom and maturity. Even, you know, if they date, the quality of people they date kind of evolves over time. So that's an important thing to note. And I think if you compare turning 18 with turning 25 does suggest a greater level of maturity, or so we think. But like, yeah, that's what the science says. So adolescents are growing, they're having all these hormones shooting off, the introduction of periods and whatever, and you're having all of these confusing changes in your body. Some people get very thick, very wide hipped, very large breasts, very young, 13, 14, and then they get introduced to feelings like being sexualized, body shame. And with the guys, they sometimes experience crises of masculinity, having to prove yourself, not being allowed to cry, and just that age or stage in your life, you're having a hard time, but the smartest part of you the prefrontal cortex hasn't developed yet or is still developing. And one of the executive functions of the prefrontal cortex is emotional regulation. That means a person's ability to experience and feel emotions, deal with them without them overwhelming their life. That's why teenagers get they get a bad reputation for being moody, for being the B word, for being angry, impulsive. And it really is misunderstood sometimes. And I think parents or family members or even teachers can feel that people have an attitude or they are misbehaving on purpose. And in my experience, in my clinical experience and in my personal experience, teenagers who act out really feel those feelings when they're banging the door, when they're saying, "Mom, you're ruining my life." They really feel that way. They really feel angry. They feel misunderstood. They really feel that their parents are, the architects of their destruction. And, it's very tricky because parents come into sessions or consultations bringing their child and saying, I can't really deal with the mood swings. And, then that's actually a best case scenario, because then the adolescent is being taught coping skills, mental health resilience, all those things. So the reason why adolescence is such a significant time in mental health and psychiatry is that most people who end up having some kind of episode or concern of a mental health nature, it can be traced back to adolescence. If you, like myself, I have been diagnosed with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety. Growing up, I was more of an anxious child. I was quite nervous. I didn't really trust the world. But around 14, that's when I really started experiencing depression. All those, because depression has a lot to do with the chemical state of your brain. And depression is, while it's mild, it's also very good to develop or re-emphasize basic mental health protection. I can put it like that. Things that maybe are obvious to adults that are not so obvious to adolescents. I know for one, I would really stay in the room I shared with my sister all weekend, and I really wouldn't talk to anyone. And I think my mom knew I had depression. It's just we never had the discussion or anything. And she would come into the room and force me to go on a walk. And I thought this was ridiculous. Why? I don't want to do anything. I don't want to talk to anyone. But obviously she, I was a lot younger, and I had great respect for my mom because girl could tussle, She really wasn't afraid of throwing hands. But she did have a gentle and soft approach, generally. So she would encourage me to go on walks, to drink water, to get off my phone, to listen to gospel music. Even a lot of my family members lived in the area. So even if we were going to, or she was going to see my aunt, she would force me to come and spend time with my cousins, even though I didn't really feel like it. And obviously now looking back, I can see that it did a lot for my mood. It really improved my mood. And what's nice about adolescence is that if they stay in school can also help to reduce those really bad feelings, especially those mood symptoms. If you're depressed, genuinely depressed, mild, moderate, severe, and you go to school and you get there maybe 30 minutes before school starts, and you start hanging out with your friends, and you guys start laughing, and you're in the sun, and you've done your homework, you're learning about a topic you love in a specific subject. For people who have mild depression and anxiety, those environments can be really, really positive and really reduce those symptoms. So yeah, stay in school, kids, that's valid. Another thing about adolescent mental health is substance use / substance experimentation. I will not be using the term substance abuse because that's a very complex disorder with a whole lot of things there. So the reality is something like 50% of teenagers will experiment with a substance, and it's normal. You know, by normal, I don't mean healthy. I just mean it happens. And parents can be very tough and it can be very shaming and very punitive because they're genuinely scared. You know, I haven't met people who are not scared of what drugs or substances can do to someone's life. It's genuinely very frightening. But one thing I have noticed about parenting an adolescent is for you to have successful adolescents or children, you need to develop or use the skills they don't have yet. Okay, so what does this mean? If your daughter comes home smelling of alcohol, or your son comes home or he is found somewhere and they were eating space muffins or they were smoking a joint, you cannot let the feelings of anger overwhelm you and then you start disciplining and shouting and, you know, become very harsh very quickly. Remember, adolescents do that. So this is the tough part about parenting an adolescent. It requires maturity and it requires remembering that adolescents, despite everything, are just children.
Coco, when mommy says stop, you say okay.
I'm just a baby.
But you still had to say okay, mom.
I'm just a baby.
You know, I genuinely believe everyone under the age of 18 is just a kid. Kids mess up, you know, when kids are 2, 3 and they spill Coke, you know, you just wipe it and tell them, don't do that again. If, you know, you're not a very harsh parent. But when they're older, we just suddenly want to do this thing that we've never done before, of just like shame. That feeling of shame, like you're not a good person. You're going to be a criminal. All your friends are going to laugh at you. For people who already feel alone and misunderstood, it makes it worse. You know, adolescents are often very sensitive to the fact that their parents don't love them, because if you think about it, when a child starts turning 10, 11, 12, you stop hugging them, you stop tucking them into bed, you stop being on their case about homework so much. They have to be a little bit more independent. Even the way you talk to them can be a little bit more harsh or not so loving and like, oh, my sweetie. So they tend to develop I don't want to say delusion, that's a strong word. They tend to develop an idea that their parents don't love them. So when you punish adolescents, be incredibly careful of that. And you know what? When you don't know how to deal with the situation, this is where people like me come in. Consult a professional. The thing that gets a lot of parents is they try to do things on their own. You don't know mental health the way a mental health practitioner does. You didn't study development, you know. Yes, you were a parent, but you're dealing with a new set of challenges in a new environment, especially now in a new digital climate. You know, I see people on Twitter like debating like, should children be spanked, or remember in our day ABC. It's useless to think about the past because it's gone, and you have to equip yourself to parent the person who's in front of you, not the person who's in your mind. And it's that's why we're seeing a lot of people struggling with parenting, because parenting is difficult. It requires a person to have dealt with their own issues, challenged their anxiety, to sleep enough so that they're not grumpy first thing in the morning, to have a solid idea about their religion, about education, to know how to balance free will versus expectations, and someone who can be flexible and open-minded. These are very hard things, and they require a lot of personal introspection, reflection, and also professional help. And then as for the adolescents, you know, it's genuinely a really rough time. So if you're an adolescent, or you know someone who's an adolescent watching this, I know there's a lot of emphasis on school and whatever, but remember to have fun, and good, clean fun. Go to Gold Reef City with your friends if you can afford it. Go to the mall. Try out new hobbies. Learn how to crochet. Balance how much time you're spending in front of a screen and outside. Go on walks. You know, like going on a walk every day can do wonders for your mental health. Get some sun. Swim. Learn how to ride a bike if you don't know already. If your friend has dogs, go spend time, you know, with the dogs if you are not afraid of dogs. Remember to have fun. outside of romantic exploration and outside of alcohol and substances. I say this because I know adolescents will experiment with dating, kissing, making out, even further. I know they will experiment with substances, although some don't. Or if they do, it'll be the more socially accepted substances like alcohol, having a sip of a beer here and there, 3 or 4 puffs of a joint, space cookies, that might happen and most likely will. I grew up very sheltered. But around 17, 16, somewhere there, I went out to a party and my mom said yes, can you believe it? And we really got drunk. These things will happen, but it's very important to pick up hobbies or strengthen hobbies that you left behind when you were a kid, like reading, makeup, writing stories, and I know a lot of people don't have resources, especially in South Africa, but crocheting, learning how to do hair, reading magazines, even if they're old magazines, watching movies, but do these things with the intention of having fun and not because they're there, or watching a movie just so you can go on a date with a guy or him inviting you over, let's watch movies. No, the digital world has a very dark, bad side, yes. It also has a very good side. So Googling things you can do. You can get really creative. It's a wonderful time to be creative. And yeah, if you're experiencing mental health problems such as anxiety, depression, struggling with motivation, feeling alone, feeling very emotional, feeling stressed out by the things that adults in your life are doing which are out of your control, maybe a divorce, maybe your mom's dating someone new that you don't like, maybe your dad moved away and it feels like he forgot you. All those things, substances, if you got caught with substances, or you change from one subject to the other and it affected your self-esteem, body shame issues, please contact me. This is what I do, and I really love working with adolescents because I think their minds are fresh and they can really change the way that they think about the world and build confidence while they're young, so that if they go on to tertiary education or straight into the job market or employment seeking, at least some of the childhood difficult things are being sorted out, and we are teaching kids mental health resilience. Adolescents can actually do very well with just psychotherapy or general counseling. They don't always have to get on medication, unlike adults, because with adults, by the time they come to the consulting room, things have gotten really bad over a lot of years. So adolescents are really a group of amazing young creative kids, and I'm not saying kids so that you treat them like children, but there are people who need our protection, who need boundaries, and who need help negotiating this phase of their life. Because as much as they have many questions, they do tend to rely on people who are not as smart as them. No. As much as they have questions, they tend to rely on people like them who aren't really that experienced, who are their friends, maybe someone a year younger and older. So the more of an investment we make in our adolescents, you will see as a society, if we can manage that, we will be preventing a lot of things like teenage pregnancy and substance use problems and, crime and whatever. And I'm not trying to make a speech to say that if mental health is sorted out, there are significant benefits for society. I mean, it's true. But what I'm just trying to say is health. That's the one thing we can preach to anyone. And if you're not healthy, and if you're struggling, and if you're excessively sad, don't make the mistake I made of thinking it's your personality. You're just like that. You're just an introvert. It's something to get help for if you're suffering. For as long as you're suffering, please talk to your parents. Please go to the local clinic. Hit me up. I have offices in Pretoria North, Atteridgeville. I also do virtual things. And remember that the age of consent is 14. So even if your parents are not on board and you can't, use them directly to get this help, you still can go to the clinic. And I say this for people who genuinely don't have, very involved parents, or, there are situations with mental health, there are always situations. So we try to give people as many options as possible. But if you do have the resources, please consult with someone. Most medical aids should cover it. I'm really not sure what the standards are these days with medical aids, but I remember when I was on my mother's one, she had like a comprehensive plan. If you don't really have any diagnosis, like you just need someone to talk to, I think you get 8 sessions. So a lot can be done in 8 hours spaced over a year. And in closing, I just want to say to anyone who is an adolescent or who is around adolescents that the biggest thing we can do as people is love each other. An example I can think of is I live with my brother. He's an adolescent. There are many small things he does that really irritate me, but I have to remember he's just a kid. Like, I can't be shouting over a mistake every day. It's just better to reinforce our boundaries, reinforce our discipline style without breaking someone's self-esteem. Adolescents, despite the challenges in raising them, are people worthy of love, worthy of gifts, worthy of being appreciated. Wow, you're so handsome. You're so good with your brother and sister. I admire you. It's okay for parents to be nice to their kids, to love their kids. Not everything has to be discipline. Like, sometimes you can give your child a free pass. Like, you know what? You really messed up, but we're going to show you grace, because these are the lessons that adolescents take into the rest of their life. So if we can get it right now, or we can get it at least halfway right, there's a lot less we have to solve as we go on. So that was my little speech about adolescent mental health. Once again, I just want to remind people that they're just kids. They just need love. They need our help. They're going through things they don't understand or have the language for. Even if they don't open up to you, let them open up to someone. Watch them, supervise them, encourage them, not just in school but in their talents. Encourage their friend making skills. Don't always be so strict. If you have a lot of anxiety and fear about how your child's gonna turn out, you should maybe also seek some psychotherapy to help you challenge those negative thoughts, because people thrive when they're given a chance. So I could go on and on and on about adolescents, because they're really some of my favorite people on earth. They really get a bad rep, but kids are really a gift to a society, and it's important that they have enough people to talk to, and with professional help, at least you're reassured that someone knows what they're doing. They know about development. And that's just basically my 2 cents. My email is becomingshika@gmail.com. If you have any parenting questions, you're curious about anything, you want to find more information about something, you want more resources, I made that email specifically for people who are watching my content to engage with me if they don't want to write stuff in the comment section or DM. Otherwise, please follow me on socials. Everything should be in the description box. And once again, please like, share, comment, subscribe, screen record. I'm not sure if you can do that, but give adolescents, give teenagers a chance. They might just surprise you. That's all for me.
Miss Walker, thank you for wanting a verse from me. Apologies for the wait, sometimes it's hard to get the distractions up off you. For enough time to jot your thoughts, but fuck it, this morning I got to.